Fires destroyed two big stores and damaged another on Ventura Boulevard, and investigators say it was arson.
A comatose woman who triggered a nationwide debate about the right to die passes away 2 weeks after her life support is disconnected.
A wall of mud comes tumbling down a hill in Brentwood. It damaged two homes. We'll have a live report.
Frozen crops, frozen flowers, frozen pipes. We'll have the latest on the damage from the cold snap.
And retailers are hoping big. After Christmas sales will lure the crowds that didn't come before the Christmas holidays.
John Beard, Linda Alvarez, Fritz Coleman Weather, Fred Rogan, Sports, Steve Gandel, Health, and David Horowitz, Fight Back. Channel 4 News, #1 in Southern California.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our top story today, fire investigators say it was arson that destroyed two different buildings and charred another on the same street in Studio City this afternoon. Our Fernell Chapman is live at the scene. He has details. Fernell.
Well, Linda, firemen are still on the scene monitoring hotspots here in the 12,100 block of Ventura Boulevard. At least 3 businesses here in Studio City were destroyed and several others damaged. Investigators, as you reported, are convinced it is indeed a case of arson. 2 of the 3 fires raged out of control only about 100 yards apart. Heavy smoke spewed from a Stroud's linen store and a Pier 1 import store for nearly 2 hours before the flames were finally extinguished. The fires began almost simultaneously at the rear of each business, and before it was all over, there was fire, smoke, and water damage to several adjacent stores. All are located on Ventura Boulevard near Laurel Canyon. Firefighters were called to the Pier 1 store, then noticed the Stroud store was also ablaze. About 15 minutes earlier, a third suspicious fire had erupted about half a mile away at the rear of a business called Bed and Bath. Investigators say there's no doubt it's a case of arson. Gasoline containers were found at one fire, and witnesses spotted a man running from 2 of the 3 blazes.
Out of a sudden, we seen a guy running towards our way, you know, like a bummy-ish kind of guy, all dressed in black, his hair slicked back, kind of like with ashes or something on him, you know, kind of like, you know, black around his neck.
Nobody in custody?
No, nobody in custody as of this time.
In addition to the 3 businesses that burned, the president of the Studio City Chamber of Commerce says at least 2 more businesses received anonymous, threatening phone calls.
My employee received a phone call that it was from fire dispatch that we were to evacuate our building and Save-On's and to do it immediately. Save-On also got a phone call. It turned out that the phone calls were not from the fire department and that we were next.
Now, we can tell you that no lives were lost in any of these fires, and initial reports indicate only one fireman sustained second-degree burns to his face and neck. He was taken to Sherman Oaks Burns Unit and remains there at this hour. As for those threatening phone calls, LAPD investigators are now questioning business owners who got those calls, saying they're next. All of them who received such calls are located on the north side of Ventura Boulevard. Today's fires were all on the south side of Ventura Boulevard. No arrests have been made and no motive has been determined. Live from Studio City, I'm Fernell Chapman.
Boy, that's a frightening situation. Thank you, Chad. A messy situation in one Brentwood Hills neighborhood this afternoon. It was a sudden mudslide which poured over several homes. Jim Giggins has a live report for us.
Residents on this quiet street above Sunset Boulevard of the Brentwood Hills say they had no warning before the hillside gave way. Within seconds, the cascading mud and water from the property above inundated this home below. The slide continued through and around the house, taking with it parts of the structure and the outside fence. Next door, the slide took part of a garage and filled the swimming pool with mud. Marini Cantwell lives here.
I was upstairs and heard this terrible roaring noise and crackling, and I thought either the wind had come up suddenly or I couldn't figure out what in the world could cause all that noise, and you just felt, you know, it was just a terrible feeling. So I ran down, I looked out our dining room window, and our whole patio was full of about a foot of muddy water.
When firefighters and cleanup crews arrived on the scene, their first fear was that someone might have been buried by the slide. But fortunately, no one was injured.
I was concerned about a rescue problem. Once we ascertained that there was no injuries or rescue, we shut off the gas mains to both houses and then notified the proper authorities.
Investigators say it appears as if a pipe burst, causing all this damage, but as yet, they don't know why it happened.
It looks like a possible break-in, some kind of a service line or a sewer system, and we have not determined that at this time. DWP is on scene and they are still investigating.
Residents here say they've had similar problems with water before, but never before have the results been this disastrous. This is Jim Giggins reporting live from the Brentwood Hills. Back to you in the studio.
Fire and water today. Thank you, Jim. Plumbers in the Antelope Valley are working overtime to repair dozens of pipes that burst during the deep freeze. In some cases, those burst pipes have created a new kind of ice sculpture. Of course, this depends on the eye of the beholder. More from John Marshall on that one.
It was not an ice storm, only a broken water line to the house. It's still so cold in the Antelope Valley, the icy evidence of what was a geyser will be here for days. Overnight in Lancaster, the temperature dropped to 6 degrees. There are more plumbing problems than plumbers here. The backlog of calls is so great, this homeowner waited 3 days. Once the water is drained from the attic and the pipes repaired, a carpenter will be called in to install a new ceiling. Apparently, there are ways to avoid all this.
The best thing to do is keep their heat up at night. Try to keep it up. Don't try to conserve when we got real cold weather. And try to keep if they got to go away, at least turn your water off at the house and leave your hose bibs open. All your faucets, leave your spigots open. If they're going to leave the house, otherwise you're going to have this problem.
Copper pipes are the most vulnerable. The water turns to ice and expands, then this. Owners of some commercial buildings